Hey, it's Corinne, 365 Days of Open Heart Living, Day 83, Emotional Release. The emotions that we feel in our life, we can let them flow through us or we can bottle them up. Either way, there has to be an outlet for emotional release. In the circumstances where we bottle up our emotions, we become incapable of facilitating the emotional release in a healthy way. And oftentimes it comes out in an explosion because all that pressure of that emotional distress that's being built up, it pushes against us from the inside out. And then we have one little last piece of straw that lands on us and we kaboom, we blow. Um, when we allow emotions to flow through us, then we don't have that tension build up quite as dramatically, and we are better able to process through our emotional ups and downs, and be able to have an emotional release in a more healthful, conscious, and intentional way, so that it doesn't catch us in a bad moment of just letting it all explode. Instead, we're able to feel and move through our emotional releases in a way that is gentler to us and to the people that we're dealing with. Sometimes when people have emotions that they don't deal with, maybe it's past um, dramas or traumas, maybe it's abuse from childhood. When there are things that have not been dealt with emotionally, they it's a burden to carry, undoubtedly. And potentially that's how the cycle of abuse continues to happen within um, relationships and families and um, just connections between human beings, because the pain that someone has suffered, it has not been able to be processed and to have found a healthy way to release it. So, causing pain on somebody else, allowing your inner pain, your inner emotional holdings to be acted on in such a way that causes pain and hurt, even abuse of other people, manipulation, coercion, um, physical and verbal abuse. Oftentimes, I wonder if it's because that person has emotional pains that they have not dealt with, and it's a release, like getting out the ick from you passes it on to somebody else in a very icky, unhelpful way. But there's an emotional charge that is released, it's passed on. It's not helpful at all in our structure of being human together. And it's not helpful at all for the individual who has the pain that they are not finding outlets to deal with, express, and release it healthfully. We all need help. We all need support. Sometimes supports are needed more drastically than others. And if you are in a situation or position where you are inflicting pain on somebody else because of your emotional pains, your physical past pains that you have suffered and that have left inner emotional wounds on you and how you're able to function in the world, you need to find a healthy way to release those emotions, to look at them, to face them, to acknowledge that that's real, that that happened, that it was painful, that it has an effect on you. And you need to find a way to not pass on that pain to another human being, because that is where dysfunction comes in, where we are dysfunctional and we pass on our dysfunction because there is not healthy ways to um, facilitate emotional release. Some healthy ways to release emotion are through exercise, through moving your body, exerting when you're stressed out and amped up, and or when something's troubling you, when you're depressed, even when you're thinking about things that you can't do anything about and it's just got you down. Move your body. There's energy involved with the movement of your body that helps that stuck energy of emotion to release, to flow, because it's not two different things. It's one thing. You are one energetic human being with different dimensions of being, but if you have a release physically, that also can impact you having an emotional decrease in the burden that you're carrying, because there is a combined release that happens when you move your body and you release the pent up tension that you are feeling physically. That could also have been physical tension from your emotional holding. And so moving your body and releasing it is also very much so an emotional release. And potentially, you know, um, I'm getting the image of like a person hitting another person, and it's like a transfer of energy. It's like, I'm so mad at you right now, and I'm going to exert this physical energy on you of my emotional anger, and it comes out in a terrible way. And that's not constructive, it's not healthy. Now, for that person to be able to recognize, like, I am angry, I want to hit you or somebody, I am needing a physical outlet, and for them to consciously be able to pull themselves back, go find a different outlet, get a punching bag, go for a run. Like, maybe the physical reactiveness is their emotional release, but taking that out on another human being, that is not healthful. That is completely dysfunctional and not okay on any level. On any level. So yeah, it's interesting to think about abuse and how every abuse has an emotional undercurrent. There is oftentimes a feeling of lack or of unworthiness, of just convolutedness, chaotic brain, chaotic life that is putting pressure inside of that person that builds, and then the abuse happens. Or it's just not being able to deal with what they were traumatized with as a child, and in some way connecting to that trauma in a way that they aren't the victim anymore. Almost kind of taking control of that unreleased emotional pain of being victimized by becoming the victimizer, by becoming the one who is in control of the situation, has power over it. It's disgusting. It's disgusting and dysfunctional. And emotional release, it, it needs to have a, a bigger place in, I think, rehabilitation, because maybe then dysfunction can lessen for the person. Maybe they can have a more healthful way of dealing with their emotions, recognizing them. Awareness is so huge too. Like, some people in their unconsciousness, they might not even recognize that I abused my wife because I saw my mother be abused by my father, or whatever the situation is. Like, it just was this like energy of acceptance and treatment, and the tension of witnessing your mother being beaten, like taking that in and then trying to like make sense of it and trying to deal with it and having that be an emotional scar in your body. And then you grow up and you beat your wife. Where could that have lessened? Where could that emotional pain have lessened in that individual's life? By talking about it, by acknowledging that that was not okay, by having therapy themselves, by recognizing when what their threshold is and when they get to the point of wanting to inflict harm on another person. By there's so many things, that rehabilitatively can happen, but it it needs to come from a place of awareness and knowing that emotional release is therapeutic and is needed. So those are kind of the more dramatic examples. But just in situations that are not like abusive, in situations that are just day-to-day stress, like we always need outlets to have emotional release. Because like I said, it's like a balloon. It just keeps expanding, expanding, expanding until it pops. We pop, everything goes everywhere, shit flies. Like it's it's a scene. It's a scene. So meditation is definitely a space to come into for emotional release. So today, I want you to close your eyes, relax, and take in a few nice breaths. The guided meditation is going to be upon identifying what is an emotion that you are not releasing that's maybe just under your surface, and then encouraging you to use this time and space to release it. Center into yourself again by breathing. When you look your pain in the eyes, you see it. And that is when you take power over it and you can actually do something about it. What is your current personal emotional pain that you have been harboring these days? What is that one emotion that comes up for you in answering that question of what your current personal emotional pain is that has been harbored within you? Once you have identified it, I want you to allow yourself to feel it. Feel that emotion now in its rawness. Allow it to bubble up inside of you and be felt. Feel it in your body. Hear what it sounds like in your mind, what words come through, and your identification of it, and just your awareness of it. Allow it. What is expressed through you and feeling the emotion physically, mentally? What do you say in your mind and feeling it? Allow it to be expressed in your open awareness, in mental words and physical feelings and emotional feelings. And allow it to go on and on until it naturally starts to taper off. Take as long as you need to let those words, in connection with the emotion that you've been harboring, run through your mind, to let that feeling of that emotion in your body and in your emotional self be felt. In time and in space, you'll start to notice that the words slow down, the physical tension in the body of the emotion lets go. The feeling of the emotion itself has more space in it. It releases, and being allowed to be felt, expressed, and witnessed within your open awareness. Feel how it feels now on the other side of opening to your emotional self and release. What is the potential that you have created for yourself in allowing this emotional release? The potential that you have created for yourself is that you have more freedom to move around in that emotion. It has less of a tight grip on you, bringing you to chaos and dysfunction, and it has more flow and being just allowed. It's allowed to feel how you feel. You're allowed to move through and process how you feel. And to give yourself a healthy way to release feeling how you feel, so that there's more space in feeling the way that you do. And in that space, it doesn't push against you in the way that leads you to dysfunction and more hurt and pain harbored. You actually have more freedom in it because you allow it. You don't push up against it. You allow its release. And when you're ready, open your eyes. It seems like in our culture, in our society, we have been conditioned to not allow emotional release. There's that phrase of children should be seen, not heard. That is the best expression of not allowing emotional release in our culture, in the way that we have been taught to live. And that's an old saying. I think that we have grown from that in our society, but it's still an undertone. There's so many people of varying ages that have an issue, have a problem with allowing emotional release and expression. And it's not healthy. It's not healthy at all. Preventing emotional release is at the undercurrent of dysfunction that perpetuates. And if we had more healthy, intentional ways that were acceptable and available to release our emotional burdens, then we open up that space in how we function as human beings in our culture and our society to have those hard conversations about how we feel, what our feelings do to us inside, what our feelings do to us, and how we function in our lives, and have more acceptance in recognizing others and how they are harboring emotions that are affecting their ability to function in their life as well. I don't have the solution. I only have a tool, and the tool is meditation. Meditation is a holistic practice. It touches upon all of the areas of our human beingness: mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical. That's what I got for you. But I do know that if you make meditation a part of your way of life, whether you do it daily, whether you do it a couple times a week or touch into it from time to time, it's always going to give you some stability. And it's always going to allow inner growth and support an ability to be more aware of how you're feeling in connection with yourself. And then that opens the gateway to be able to release your emotions healthfully, because you know yourself, you can see yourself, you can recognize what's happening when it's happening, and then you'll pick up other tools of healthful release for your emotional stressors and traumas. So please, my dear one, live your heart,